And if you
Welcome,
guys can,
everyone. My name is Tony Carcamo, President of AutoCAD Learning Solutions and also President of the DFWBIUG Infrastructure User Group. So thank you for joining for our this month. March is actually webinar. We have two more lined up for this month. And so today, our guest speaker is Kristina, and she's going to go over parametric design in AutoCAD. So take it over, Kristina.
thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Yeah, so as Tony said, first off, thank you for allowing me to have this webinar with you. I'm very excited. So as you mentioned, we're going to cover the parametric tool set for AutoCAD. This is an introduction to the tools and just to get you familiar with the capabilities and the options available. And then in the future, we're going to look to host one where we actually utilize the tools and show you more of their function, but this one will just be a nice introduction to them. So if you're in your AutoCAD at the top, your toolbars, you have the parametric. And I was surprised to find that not a lot of people knew what this was or how to use these tools. So I adore them. I use them not just for design, but I use them for standards and foundations inside of my CAD work. I'm going to show you my favorite one of all because people will always be touching your stuff. So stop touching my stuff. Back off. Anyway, so the first section would be the geometric capabilities. And this actually is like, alignments, making things perpendicular, connecting things, just constraining the geometric objects within AutoCAD. And the tools here are pretty straightforward and easy to use. So I'm just going to, the easiest way actually is for me to just make a little rectangle here for the very first one. So auto constraint, this one is just like, automating the basic, I see what you have, what can I do with it? So if I select auto constraint, you'll see right away what this feature will do. If I click on my rectangle here, it is assume things about my object, and it is going to apply those constraints to it. So what are these? So this one right here, this one's parallel. So you can see that it's parallel on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So it's actually connected, these two objects. So they'll always stay parallel. What does that mean? If people aren't familiar, if I try and move this object around, you can see that those two lines will stay parallel to each other. And because the top and bottom are also aligned for parallel, they're doing the same. And then there's this other little icon here, horizontal. Very straightforward. What does that mean? This line will always be horizontal. So these parallel ones, we could actually always make them vertical as well. There's a vertical icon, a vertical tool for it. So if I just select the one, it's because I've already had this set as parallel, but it's good to see issues. This constraint can't be applied because it conflicts with another constraint. So that's actually because we have it auto-constrained for this right angle, which is called the perpendicular. So if this one wasn't here, I can go back. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it does depend on the order, but you get the general idea of what these lines do. So here, let's just show that one. So I've got a little line right here, and I'm going to have one that I'm going to want to go vertical. Instantly makes it vertical for me, makes it nice and easy. And then we're going to go horizontal, and it does maintain the size. So if you're drawing an object, as long as it's relative, it should keep the size. It might change it on you a little bit, but again, this is just for the tools and the functions that are available. What else do we have? So we have the coincidence. This constrains two objects to a point. So if we draw a line here and another one, so I can go over here and I can say, what point do I want it aligned it to? So it gives me those nodes that I can click to. So let's go to the end one. And I can select any one from this other line as well. So I'm going to select the center one. And now it's always constrain these two objects and those points together. So if I try and move this around, you can see that it's keeping that object associated to the points that I've connected. We have collinear. So this one just makes two lines the same on the same plane, on the same line. So in case I need to align things, and I'm doing objects that are connected, but you can also do this on lines throughout your entire project. So if I know I have a room over here, just draw a quick line over in Laura's room here, F8. Sorry, I prefer the keyboard over the mouse, so don't mind me with my controls. And let's draw another one over here in Bob's area, because Bob needs one. Okay, so what this will allow us to do is if I select this object here, we go over to Laura, and then we're going to go over to Bob. And now it's aligned these two on the same plane. And I can just double check. We can do it with an X line if you want, or however you confirm your values. And it aligns them for me. So it is overlapping, but I hope that gets the point across about the function of that one. Then what else do we have? Concentric. So constraints selected arcs, circles, and ellipses to maintain the same center point. So let's just draw a bunch of circles here, and we can draw them all over the place because it gets the point across. And we can just keep selecting. So now it's given all of these circles the same center point. Just a very easy tool. So actually, I really like this one for product design. So I do a lot of planters and objects like that. And if I'm drawing the elevation, or sorry, if I'm drawing like a plan view, this allows me to just easily align objects if you're kind of building it in parts or however you want to do it, or even just maintaining it after I've built it. This stops people from being able to move these objects around because they are all constrained to that one center line. And now for my favorite tool. If I could only have one object, if I could only have one tool out of this whole thing, I'll take them all, but is this fixed? And actually, let's go to layout for this one. I don't have a title block in here. Here's a title block. Let's remove this one here. So why do I like this one? Because people are always moving your stuff around. So what does that mean? Oh, remove this. There we go. Okay, so what does that mean? So sometimes, especially title blocks or even block insertion points, this is where I use this one a lot. People move stuff accidentally, on purpose, whatever it is, you can't control it. So if you select this lock, this fix, as it's called, and you can pick a point on the object, and now if I go try to move this, it is not going to allow this object to move. It locks it in place. You're giving it a defined origin point. It doesn't change your AutoCAD's origin, but it's given this object an origin. And I really like that in, oops, apologize for that. I really like it for blocks as well. So this one, I have one where somebody had moved it. Just give it a second to respond. So you can see that our 0 to 0 is over here, and that is not great. So we're just going to draw a line because sometimes AutoCAD doesn't like to move objects to the 0, 0. Don't know why. We're going to pick this center point and we're going to get her back over there. Okay, and now what can this do for me? So now that I've created this block, I don't want them to move it from this. This is not going to stop them from drawing it, resizing it. It's just going to maintain this origin for me so that I know when it's loaded into one project or to 10 projects, that's always the same point. And if somebody really, really, really wants to move it, they have to put a lot of effort. Well, not a lot of effort, but a little bit of effort to disassociate this. But for the technical librarian, let's call them, it's just kind of a peace of mind, letting you know that you've constrained your object to your insertion point. So now when I go back over to my main project, where did you go? There you are. That it doesn't stop this object from moving. It doesn't hinder your block in any way. It just, again, stops somebody from being able to go in there and move it off of that insertion point, because that can be a problem, especially if you have a project, especially if it's XREFed, because if somebody moves your object and then it is reloaded, things can move. That's a problem. So, just this little command is very powerful. I strongly suggest it. I'm going to get back into these tools because they're pretty awesome. So I have my door plan view here, and you can see that she might be a little wonky. And I want to fix that because I want her, sorry, let's move this. I want it to align with this elevation. So first off, you can just rotate it. That's not a problem, but I like to add a little level of control to my files and making sure that things are just going to stay the way that I want them. Because sometimes you can see how I went to click on this plan view and I had my elevation still selected. Kind of can drive you insane a little bit. So we're just going to go to the vertical, or sorry, horizontal. And when I select this, it's nicely aligned it for me. Thank you. But now I actually want to align it to the elevation as well. So you can just go back to your parallel and select your line. And now I know that those objects are, oh, sorry, wrong one. It's supposed to be the other one. Here we go. This one. Even a professional can mess this up sometimes. That's okay. All right, so there we go. There we go. Now she's aligned. So now I know that my plan view and my elevation are aligned. This is really good for product details, that this might be the only thing on this page. I'm developing it for my client or manufacturers, whoever it is, that I always know that my objects are positioned correctly and aligned correctly, because that's very important, especially into details like this, to make sure that they're aligned. Just some very simple small little things that you can do to help with the integrity of your content. What else do we have? So then we have tangent. So constraining two curves to maintain to maintain a point. So very similar to one of the other ones. Let's just draw a circle. Thank goodness this is easy to do. And align. And let's so select the first object. And we can select the second object. So it's taking it's taking where they would align on that and has now associated them together. So it will keep that constrained for you. So if you're doing product design or product development as well, this is really handy if you want to manipulate things, but you know you want them to still be constrained in a certain point, because it can be difficult to continuously try and figure that out. So use the tools that are available. And then, so now we can look at this and you're like, there are like little icons all over the place. So you have your visibility settings on the side, so we can show or hide all. So we can hide all or show all or select ones to hide. So, and sometimes it works for me. Nope. All right, that one's not working right now. Display or hides for selected objects. Yes.
Is there a feature to allow you to like turn all the constraints off and then turn them back on?
Yes, or like disable them all?
Or disable them all one time?
Okay, no, so
don't know.
You can do the delete constraints.
Oh, it would delete it? Okay.
Yeah, so we can go to this object and go delete constraints. But so that's, be careful.
Yeah.
Because you might remove something you didn't intend to do.
Yeah.
If you want to do individuals, that's where, come on.
It'd be nice if I just could create one that would like just disable it, not delete it, and you can turn it back on. Maybe you're making some kind of edits, but you want to turn off the constraints and then turn it back on.
And there's two stages to that. I agree, but then there's also the ones where, like the circle and the line, I want to make sure that they're connected on that tangent.
Yeah.
But I might want to still manipulate things. So gauge your desired function and then make the appropriate choice. But as I said, not a lot of people actually utilize this tool, so I don't know how much work Autodesk puts into it. I did a little bit of beta testing this year, not as much as I wanted, or sorry, last year, because don't have time to do everything. And there was nothing related to parametric design in the beta, so I'm not even sure what 2024 is going to hold for me. Probably exactly this, but that's okay. And then another great one is actually this equal command. And this one's very interesting and should be used carefully, because, if you don't intend this to happen, then, it could kind of mess things up if you don't know that you've applied it. So what this does, we should make this line really small. Okay. So when I select the object, so I'm selecting the object that I want to reference, and then the second object. So now you can see that the second object has been increased as elongated. So, and you can see that it's actually changing size as I try and scale this one. So that means they are almost like tidally locked together. They are, what's the word I'm looking for? Their lengths are locked. I can't think of the right word. We'll go with that one. And so that means if I'm drawing something maybe for like my elevation in my plan view here, that I know maybe a certain line is going to be the same as another one and I want to manipulate it, then I don't need to go and manipulate two drawings because it's connecting those two lines to me, to each other. The next section is the dimensional. So what is this? It's actually the exact same as the normal dimensions, but now you're giving yourself a parametric attribute to it. And this is very similar to Revit. So we have the linear, the align, it has all the other ones. I'm not going to really get into all of them, but we'll just kind of do a basic here. So what this means is that I can constrain an object. So it's not letting me select the line. I have to actually define points because you can define any node, it doesn't matter. We'll go to the whole line. There we go. And it creates a dimension, but then it gives me an attribute name. So this D1. So if two things here, if you're going to give yourself an attribute name while you're in this screen, it's all capitals, no spaces. You can do lowercase, but you have to do it backwards. So I could type in T and I'm not pressing shift. If I press shift now, it goes lowercase. So it's just opposite of how we normally do things with your keyboard, but just keep that in mind. It's not a problem. And no spaces. It does not like spaces. So, so we're just going to call this length. Oops. See, I did it backwards. And I can actually change the dimension right here as well. So let's go 30. So there's quite a lot of controls here. Then there is the align, does the same thing. So do the circles, but there's this convert. So let's grab a normal dimension. And this one requires it to be an annotative dimension. So that means you can't so we've got this one where I've selected the line. Now if I go and try and convert it, it's going to tell me that it couldn't convert that line because I didn't select it the right way. I selected the line, I didn't select points. So that's the only thing. So we're just going to delete this one and make sure when you're using it that, again, you select points on this object. So that actually, because, you know, sometimes you can resize an object with basic dimensions and the dimension will follow. Not all the time, but in some cases. So just keep that in mind. You can see our line over there has changed as well. And just something that came up because because I changed the length of this line. It's kept the 30 length because I had it as a linear and not as an aligned. But I still want this line to be the same length as this line. And so this might be just me going in and putting in the vertical setting or something like that. This is the main one, so it's reassociated. But just so you know, play with your controls, and it can allow you to create quite a unique model. So we're going to go to this one now. This is an associative dimension. So if I select it onto here, go and enter, it's now turned this into an attribute-based dimension for me, where I can go back in. Oh, I should bring up Parameters Manager. So here's the other way to edit your parameter names. So let's get out of it here. So we can go, this is length as well, but just call it width here. And you can even type in equations. I'm going to show you how to break it, and then I'll show you how to not break it. So if I press equal, this is how we would all think to do things, because this is, you know, I want it to equal something, please. So we're just going to go in length, and like Revit, it is, you need to type it in correctly. If you don't type it in correctly, it's not going to know what to do with it. This isn't going to work because we have these connected, but just to show how these lines, so the expression cannot be evaluated. That's because we have this little equal. So if we go here, and I did not have this line perpendicular or a line. So that's why it was allowed to change. But again, we had a linear dimension on it. So it manipulates it based on how you set it up. So if something isn't working, evaluate, step back, and figure out what you need to do for that. So this one's never going to work because we have these associated. So let's disassociate. And now we're going, and we can, let's go horizontal for this one, just to make it exciting. Nope, you don't want to go exciting. Okay, you don't want to be exciting right now. We're not going to fight with you. So we can bring these lines together. And you can see that it is now half of that length. Fantastic. I can go in here and I can edit it as well. Maybe I need it to be, 2.5. And it will adjust based on that. So you can add some parametric controls to this. Again, really good for details and for product development, because now I can actually convert this door to be a parametric door. I can add one of these dimensions here. This is going to be a future webinar, so I won't get into it right now. But I can fully parametrically dimension this object, associate the frames with the proper dimensions. So, your frame depth, your frame width, your clear opening, even your sill height. And I can manipulate maybe just the length. And it would say, okay, this is 3 panels by 96 inches long. It's going to be this much for each panel, the frame's this size, and it will parametrically modify it for me. So I don't need to do anything. This makes it really good for companies and products that the product is the same but available in various sizes. Why do the work more than once? Don't do that. Got better things to do with your time. What else do we have here? So you can set them up as angular or radial or diameter based as well. And and similar to the geometric, you can hide and show all of your dimensions. Which it's not doing for me right now. You don't want to hide them? Okay, I can't fight with it. Sometimes it does what it wants to do. And so that is the basic function of the parametric tool set. Just giving you the ability to apply some intelligence to your content and allow it to work for you. Because why do you need to draw that twice? Why do you need to make sure that that line is always horizontal? You don't need to do that. Make the files work for you. In the parameters manager, which is found right beside delete constraint, so you can just turn it on and off. There is also a user-based parameters. So these are parameters that I might not need in my model, but I might need to control the model or utilize in some way, maybe even for like a field or some type of text. You can associate to these as well. So you have your dimensional constraint parameters, and it does organize it for you. And you have your user parameters. So let's type in height here, and we can say that this is 10. And how can I use this? So now I can go over here and we can go and change 8 times 3. So now it's going to take this value and it's going to times it by 3. And you can even see it here. It'll say width is height times 3. So it lets you know what's going on. And you can also turn on those dimensions. Oh, I forgot to look up that command. I'll have to look that up. There's a command, Tony, I'll post that. I'll make that as a post on our site. So there's a way to convert your annotative dimensions to actual dimensions. So I don't have to see width equals height. I can actually see the dimension. I can't remember what it is right now. I have it as a list routine that automatically runs on some of my programs. So sometimes you just stop remembering what things are when you automate it. Be careful. So you can also set up groups. So if I'm working on something that is, so like this door detail, I have my elevation, I'll have my plan view, and I'll also have my sections, and you can link up your sections as well. So I like to use the filters to just organize my parameters based on what is for which portion. So this is the elevation parameters. These ones are the plan view parameters, and it helps just keep them clean, keeps things consistent. So, you know, dig through, find out what you can utilize, and just kind of see where it takes you. Like, make mistakes, get messy. Don't worry about what's going to happen. I like to start with just basic objects, do a bunch of rectangles, draw a bunch of circles, and see how they constrain together. See how you can align them together to figure out how you can utilize these tools. But my favorite one is still going to be this fix command. So how does this work for my object here? I have. Okay, so if I select this object, my mouse had, I'm just going to go over to the other screen. Come on. No. Sometimes my mouse likes to hide. There we go. Okay, so we select this. Okay, so you can see that the lock showed up again. So what does this mean? Regen. Give me back. Tony, do you know how to fix that when sometimes your icon disappears? Likes to do that on me once in a while. That's annoying. Is it over here?
Are you talking about on the ribbon?
No, so just watch my screen for a sec. Okay, and then you can't see my cursor. Once in a while, it just likes to disappear my cursor. Regen again. Yeah. If anybody knows how to make that come back. Sometimes you just have to close the file and reopen it, but we'll just go over here now. Okay, there we go. So yeah, sometimes it disappears. Not too sure. Love the glitches. All right.
It says it happens to them all the time. Sometimes it could be a video card. I don't know if you keep your video card open all the time, and then also is your graphic accelerator turned on. I usually turn mine off. If you type in 3D config.
Okay, I'll write that in.
And I'll turn off the graphic accelerator, but that's only for 3D modeling. But graphics card, 3D config, turn that off, and that usually affects the cursor.
Okay, that's good to know. So, and it seems that most of us have that problem. So
Yeah, happens to me, Nicholas Victor.
Oh gosh, yep. Yeah, so let's go back to this lock command because it really is my favorite. So like I said, you can lock I use it mainly for locking my title blocks and locking my insertion point, but it's even good for maybe this room here. So we know that Steve's office isn't changing. We're not renovating Steve's office. So we could just go and lock him down to all of his positions. And this is just going to stop us from accidentally moving Steve around. We don't need to, because maybe it's Roxy that's going to have some changes. So this is not the best way to do this. There's definitely a better way to mirror, but this is just quick. So this will stop somebody from accidentally moving Steve's, it's not the whole thing. It will accidentally stop somebody from moving this around and messing with it, because, you know, we're not changing those objects. So I know I can't pinpoint exactly how everybody is going to utilize these tools, but hopefully that just demonstrating that they're available and their potential capabilities, that you guys will find your own uses for them. And they might be different from mine. Mine's a lot of product development. I deal with a lot of manufacturers and helping them create their content in multiple platforms. This helps me create those standards and foundations to hand off to somebody else, because I don't work for them. I am a subcontractor to them.
Yeah.
So this allows me to set up things for them that they might not understand how to utilize. They just need the CAD. They just need to know that it works.
Yeah.
But somebody can easily go in there and say, hey, but I know how to change my width. So if I set up my door family correctly and I set up my files correctly, that somebody can go in there and just change their width, change their height, and still know that their model's integrity is intact. So that's what I utilize these tools for. How you guys use them, how you're going to incorporate them into your daily workflow. I would love to hear it as you guys experience and explore these options. Please share them with us. We'd love to hear how you guys utilize them and help others take advantage of these tools. So, but again, cross functionality. That's not how I want to say that, but doesn't matter what you're using your AutoCAD, or I think you said this was available in Civil 3D as well.
Yes.
So while you're doing any of your designs, lock something down, make something perpendicular, set something on a horizontal plane, and just see how it affects your models. And you know, if you're setting up a project, so we're here in the floor sample, we know that maybe these walls are always going to be this direction. So just locking down your wall to a basic, ooh, whoever drew this file, oh my. Oh gosh, what a bad example. Oh God, keep your lines connected, people. Keep your lines connected. But now I know that somebody can't move this wall around, or at least not make it vertical or horizontal. There's various ways to utilize these tools. And so this was just an introduction to them. If anybody has any questions, I want
if anybody want to, add a question on the chat, let us know that what you saw or how you're using constraints. I personally have maybe used it once. So
and how did you utilize it?
I always forget to use it, you know, you're designing so fast, trying to meet deadlines, and you know, there's a lot of tools that people forget they're there, you know, because you're running at 100 miles per hour designing, and you're like, okay, you know, if I slowed it down and think about this, you know, you'll remember some of these, you know, powerful tools are built in AutoCAD or Civil 3 or even Revit, or Inventor or Fusion, Fusion 360. So yeah, there's just so much stuff out there. I can't remember which one I was using on a project.
Oh, so Tom had one question.
Very rarely.
Is it preferred to use these tools with arcs, lines, and polylines? Honestly, anything you can associate them to. So that's where like the concentric or even the tangent comes in handy. So we'll go back to the circles that we created. So let's just get rid of all of these, delete constraints. There we go. So Tony, you had brought this up. What happens if you delete them all, you know, so that I can move things around? So and you can, and everybody remembers introduction to AutoCAD when you were in like high school or middle school or something like that, and just trying to get lines like associated to tangents and stuff like that. This can just help you kind of perform those tasks more easily and quickly and accurately, because I'm not trying to figure out where that line might intersect or something like that, and where your tangent is on a specific angle could be can be annoying. And polylines, and so for polylines, I'll just draw a quick polyline right now. Sorry, I love my ortho. I always have to go back and forth with turning it on and off. And close. Okay, so what does this do to polylines? The same thing it does to regular lines, but your polyline is already connected. So if you do something that you don't intend to do, it can move things. So this is where you got to think ahead. Let me just get rid of this chat. This is where you got to think ahead. So if I know I need something dimensioned, I will dimension it first. So I have this object. I know I want it to be, let's just set it to 9 feet. So it's nice. Oh, not 9 inches. There we go. There we go, 9 feet. Always make sure you know what your units are before you draw something.
That's important.
Oh my goodness, all the time. And being a Canadian, and I saw a couple others on there, we work in both, like all the time. So I'll switch back from metric to imperial, just depending on the job, depending on the work. Oh my gosh, I get mixed up all the time. So let's do an aligned one as well, just because I like that. And your lines, if you ever do an align and you set it to be vertical or horizontal, that's the great thing about align dimensions, is that they're flexible. It just takes whatever it is. But if I did a linear one here, we'll do it up on this one, then it does it as a linear line. So you can only go vertically or horizontally, where aligned will match the angle of the object. So let's make some lines parallel. I'm going to want this one to be my default, and I want this one to match. I'm going to want this line to equal, let's say this line, just because we're playing with it and we're having fun. So now it's been aligned to that. Let's make this one horizontal. And let's do this object. Oop. There we go. So again, be careful with what you're doing because it might disassociate your object or change your object in a way you don't intend. But as you can see, because I have some dimensions in place, I've already associated a couple of objects that the other ones will fall in line within whatever is left over. So these ones were parallel to each other, and this one was kind of doing its own thing. Let's just undo that little guy there. And we had lost this one line. So do we want to keep this one? Then we better constrain it. So even just putting in a dimension to maintain that object. And then, and always finish your commands. I am guilty of that all the time.
Tom was asking, could you use this to create tree protection outlines? I guess like a tree fencing around an object.
Okay. I'm not going to draw exactly that, but let's just do something quick. So let's just draw a little rectangle, and let's just pretend our protection is a circle. Okay, so I'm doing it with two different objects. So sometimes you have to
tree outlines combined into one object. Okay.
Yeah, so we've got this center point. So you want to align your center line, and sometimes you need to even just draw some what's the word I want to add here? Some reference lines.
Okay.
So
depth point layer,
depth point, so just, you have your layer. We use depth points or hidden, whatever you want to call it, but I now want to constrain this, so I want it to always stay connected. So that means that we're going to align these points. So we're going to, oh wait, no, that's the wrong one. Here we go, this one there. And I could be missing something here and just trying to do it quick so that we can cover this. Okay, so let's just see that this works. It's always good to test it out. Okay, good. It's been keeping associated. We're just going to, I'm not saying, Tom, that this is what you're going to utilize it for, but in case, okay, in case whatever your object is, probably going to mainly be blocks. But we're going to go to this circle and we're going to define its point. Ooh, I don't remember if it lets me. Okay, so we're just going to go dimensions. So there's other ways to do this. I'm just trying to do it quick. And again, I don't use your application right out of the gate. So we're going to set a diameter here. We'll give it 10 feet. And we're going to lock this down to a point. So again, many ways that you can do this, many ways that you can lock this. So let's, I'm going to do something that I know some people really hate this command, but I like it for this purpose. And I've seen people comment that they hate the isolate, but if I'm trying to do something where I need to select an object, you can tab through it, but then still it's sometimes difficult to find out what you're looking for. So I can just hide my object and I can just lock down that dimension, lock down that circle. So, and then we'll go back to unhide. So now if we are changing the diameter, oh, did I lock the whole, I locked the whole object. Okay, okay. It would take me a few seconds just to figure out what this is. I don't use it for that exact application, but you can. Just how are you going to associate it together? You might just need to, that's the smooth. It's probably like the coincide. You'd probably have your center point with that line and connect them together. I can look into it and then send you something. If you want to send me like an example, Tom, or you can just post it to our page or something like that, and I can help you figure out how to work that or play with it yourself. see what the tools can get you. A lot comes down to even those def points, especially with mixing different shapes, because, you know, a circle and square, there's no center point of the square, at least not in AutoCAD's.
Could you do, I was thinking of like an elevation plan, lock like a bunch of windows to another block. So if you move one window, you want them all to be level, so it would move with it. Could you do
Yeah,
that?
so that's where your collinear would actually come in
Yeah.
handy. So if I'm trying to, here, let's actually just do it with this window here.
If you want all the windows to be in a line, so if you're doing an elevation plan, you just move one and the rest will move with it.
Yeah, so let's just pretend that somebody didn't know how to place the door. And you're like, oh goodness gracious, these have to all be on like the elevation. So I'm just gonna, and I'm having to kind of do this blind because my cursor on this one, oops, come on, you can do it. There we go. So now when I move this one object, they're all moving together. And so they can overlap because I haven't constrained them dimensionally, which you can do as well. But now at least I know if just say somebody's like, actually, I want to step into all of these doors. Can you increase their elevation by 6 inches? Okay, well, then that's where I can come in now. And
Nicholas just says, try the top left view corner, trick the cursor.
top left corner.
Of the screen or the...
Oh,
there
way
you
to go, Nicola. You're a savior. That's so much easier than saving, closing, and reopening. I will try that from now on.
Everybody has a little trick, you know, that's what we try to do in our user group, is share little tips and tricks here and there, you know. Not everyone knows everything, you know, so one little thing maybe someone's never seen or heard about, you know.
Yeah, and the same, like everybody uses the tools and the programs for different purposes. So we may not be able to answer every question, but it's fun to explore. It's fun to see how people are going to incorporate these commands into their project. And that's really what this whole webinar was about, just introducing you and opening up your mind to your own possibilities. What can this save you? What, you know, that lock command, and it was something we were joking about. If I could show the ROI on just locking down the insertion point for a block, that would be ridiculous. So but you can't. How do you save that? How do you identify how much time people waste on just putting a block back into a spot, or moving a title block or text or something like that? It's, you know, some things we can't evaluate. So, you know, just I always teach people to start with circles and squares. Just draw a bunch of things all over your screen that make no sense and see what happens when you connect them together, when you draw them together, and how you can incorporate and change the way you design with just a simple little click of a button. So yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed that. We are going to, I'm going to plan with Tony one where we draw something very basic. Might be like a planter, might be a door or window elevation plan view section. But we'll take this a little bit further, and we have kind of a series.
And this is just part one. Everyone that was able to attend, this is just part one of the webinars. We have a second one coming.
Yes.
To get into what dynamic blocks with constraints.
Yes, that will be the accumulation of them all. So the next one will be drawing with the parametric tool set. Then we're going to get into dynamic blocks. And I think Tom mentioned or was asking about that earlier. So dynamic blocks are super fun. You know, your basic block, but adding some intelligence to it. Like here at work, we have a bunch of series of products. And when we're quoting them, it's like, am I using the 60 wide or the 80 wide? Why do I need a different block? Let me select it. That's what extras are for. And then we'll get into the parametric dynamic blocks. So how you can incorporate all of this together and make your projects, make your files work for you. That's what it comes down to, right?
We had a few members saying, don't forget to use the geometric center when you're doing rectangles and squares on your object snaps.
Okay.
Yeah, when you go to object snaps, there is a geometric center. Yeah, so
we'll just bring that up.
Yeah,
There we
that's
go.
for rectangles and squares to get a sense.
Yes, which is it's not new, but I always keep forgetting about it. It's like I can't remember when this one got
They
introduced.
added in 2020, somewhere in one of the 20 versions, you know.
Yeah,
So it wasn't 18 or 19, I don't think. I think it was like 20 or
it wasn't recent, but it wasn't like
yeah.
yeah. But Nicholas, you should post your little trick on getting your cursor back, because that was amazing, and seeing how everybody else
Yeah.
responded about that. Please
Yeah.
post that to the forums so that we can all take advantage. Yeah. I'm just going to check out the chat. Oh, I love all these little tips that everybody has
Like I
on
said,
there.
all these little simple little tips everybody's sharing, you know, y'all can, you know, I give everybody permissions. They can go into our group section where our forums is, and you don't have to write a big blog post. It can be a simple tip, or it could be a 1-minute video how to, you know, fix little things. So that's what, you know, we do on our user group. We've had, you know, Kristina and Victor. We've had a lot of, you know, 10 different members on there posting their tips and tricks on multiple platforms: Revit, AutoCAD, Civil 3D. So don't be shy. I mean, we have our members are from beginners to power users to barely getting into Autodesk products, you know, first time getting in. So they're transferring from maybe Bentley or DraftSight or BriskCAD, you know, so don't be scared to go and share a simple tip on our forum section. So.
And I saw that you had responded to Moment. I apologize if I said your name wrong. And so, so as Tony had said there, it's basically adding the restrictions to the objects, but how to learn more. Just start searching the Autodesk forums, and just use the word parametric tools, AutoCAD parametric tools, and that will start getting you in the right direction. I can look for a few forms that I can post to our site to kind of get people in the right direction as well. But, you know, just go onto Google and ask a question, and it will start directing you into the right direction. There isn't a ton of stuff out there, but there's enough for the average user. When we get into the dynamic parametric design, that gets a little more difficult because not a lot of people incorporate them together. But you know, just start searching, just start making a mess. Who cares if you screwed up? It's good.
Yep,
it's good to make mistakes.
And also check out the, you know, if you might find a tip in there in the Autodesk Community Voices blog, and you know, real short tips in there too. Or feel free to ask on our members website, you know, on our, you know, our user group. You can post a question, you know, our members will try to help you as best as possible when they're free, and post it in the chat or post it in the forums, and hey, how do you use this tool? And so that's what it's all about in our user group, is sharing, and also kind of a online tech support where you can post a question. So we have, you know, we've got a lot of members that come on every day and every month. So, but
and Tom had mentioned, can we use this for curb backspaces? Yeah, as long as you have a line that you can select and associate to, then you can set a constraint up to it. Make sure that it's drawn correctly. Is it a block? Is it a polyline? If you just have a bunch of lines, it's not going to stay associated. So just, you know, pay attention to how you're designing, but it will help you also become a stronger drafter, because you have to stop and think. Like, if I'm going to utilize these tools, I need to make sure that I've drawn this correctly. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And you're not going to get the results that you're looking for. So, and it is easier to draw correctly than it is to not. That's how
I remember one time I was collaborating with another architect on a project, and they sent me like a floor plan, and man, there was constraints everywhere. I'm like, whoa, what? And that was my first time seeing constraints. What is all this? Like, why can't I make it modifications and stuff?
So that person really didn't like somebody touching their stuff
everywhere. So,
but then knowing that you could just turn them off
and
hide them is helpful. But if you're supposed to interact and collaborate, it can make it very difficult, because if you don't know they're there, then you don't know what's going on.
I have a quick question. So if you got all these constraints, does it affect how you bring that into Revit?
I haven't had a problem. It doesn't do anything to it. It just converts it to dimensions. It unassociates. It might be different. Honestly, I haven't tried that in a little while, so I'm going to write myself a note. And I have some Revit work I need to do tonight, so I'll just pop one of these over there and Um,
Kind of curious. So
yeah. Yeah, I am curious to see, because when this first came out in 2016-ish, 15, 16, I think it was 2016. It was half of this. I mean, you still had some options, but it's come a long way. And sometimes your parameters wouldn't associate correctly together. So it's come a long way in those 7 years. So I'm pretty impressed. And I used to have to do this by scripts. So before that, from 2005 to 2016, this stuff didn't exist. So if I was parametrically designing content, you'd have to do it all manually. And that was entertaining. I have no other response. It was a nightmare. Yeah. So, but if anybody could take anything from this one thing will save you so much headaches.
One last question somebody asked,
yeah,
can I lock my viewport and not make them happen to move? I guess he didn't want anybody to move the viewport. I know you can lock the viewport. Can you lock it so it can't move either also?
Yeah, so you can control it dimensionally. It's just an object like anything else. So we could just go to the lock and you can just set it up. Or wait, or I thought you could.
Oh, maybe not.
Invalid. All right. Well, then that's a good question, because I was
try making a viewport from an object and see if it'll do it. Create a rectangle and create a viewport from object and see.
Oh gosh, I haven't done that in so long. This is gonna be embarrassing.
And then make
what was the
MV, just MV command should like make viewport. So wait a minute. No, that's not it.
Oh gosh, I haven't used that command in so long.
So you can go into layout and then layout on the top.
Layout at the top. There she is.
Yeah.
And then
select rectangle over there.
Yeah, up there.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
And do O for object. You can do that. Either way, create the rectangle. I wanted to see if it would treat it differently by creating it from.
Yeah, no, that's if that's the workaround. Ooh.
There we go.
Thank you, Moab. That was awesome.
It would look different if you create the rectangle and turn it into a viewport versus just make a viewport. So there you go.
But that's good to know, because now there's your workaround. How do you get your viewports locked as well? Yeah. So that's very good for your standards and your foundations. If you're going to,
I create all my viewports from an object. That way I can reshape the viewport. So I can curve. I can I can make an irregular shaped viewport and use the grips. So I always make it from. I don't use the regular just make viewport. I make it from an object.
So you use the curves and stuff for your viewports as well.
Yeah, sometimes
it's very interesting.
And stuff, Yeah. So you might have a blow up detail, and so you got little lines going up, and you see a little circle.
Yeah.
A very small detail. So I'll create a circular detail.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
Yeah.
Just small things that people don't. Yeah. You just don't think about. So, yeah. Did anybody have any other questions?
Okay. Yeah. It's a BP clip. Yep. Okay, let's stop here. We did record the video. Just want to remind everyone we have another video, another webinar next week. And that's with Christian, our another user group member, and he's going to go over, let's see, where we have it. Past events. We had to reschedule it.
Yeah.
If I can find it here so I can repost it.
It was UX design.
Workflows using UX design process. So that's going to be next, I think, Wednesday or Thursday.
Awesome.
And then this Saturday, I'm doing another session of CAD After Dark at 7 o'clock. And I want to talk to just people that, are looking to, understand a better workflow from Civil 3D to Revit and Revit to Civil 3D. Or if you want to share your thoughts of what you're doing in your company, it's just an open discussion. We're not doing presentations, just an open discussion of, Civil 3D to Revit collaboration and stuff. So if you want to join me Saturday night and you're at home drinking a beer or some wine, come join me. So, and you'll see the link. There'll be a link there on our user group platform. So now if you want to continue discussion, just come join us on the chat, the user group on our MeWe platform. That's where we're at every day. You can find myself and Kristina and a lot of our members that are BIM managers, CAD managers, power users, even beginners. So yeah, come join us. Appreciate it. And share with your coworkers. Yeah, we'll put a link on the MeWe platform. The video, I can't do a 1 hour video on MeWe, but I'll post the link from the YouTube. I'm going to put it on our user group, my YouTube channel, my company channel. I'll upload that video. So you'll see a link on the MeWe platform that we can click in. It'll take you to YouTube. So give me a day or so I can edit it and add our little slides and stuff. And then you'll see it posted on the group section, if you're on the group section. So you'll see it posted there. So, all right, everyone, well, have a great lunch and thanks for joining us, and be sure to invite other coworkers to our user group platforms and join us in our discussion every day. We're on there all the time, networking, talking. So, yeah. All right, have a great week.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, everyone. See you later. Bye.